All right, we are live. Sunny days in Flushing. All-Star break. The Mets are 49 and 45.
49 and
It's saying
46.
I am having a hard time here. Um, all
Uh-oh,
right,
what
so
happened?
apparently it's not letting us stream to Twitter. I will pull up my Twitter and take a look at that.
I'll do that while you're talking. You introduce
Well,
us. I'll figure that out.
so Mets are 49 and 45 in a far better position right now than we thought they would be 2 months ago. We had the home run derby. We had the All Star game yesterday. Tonight, we wanted to kind of, I guess to a degree, recap the first half a little bit, talk about some news and updates, and then and then afterwards, kind of get into some of the guys on the trade block that are potentially out there.
Yep.
But let's start with the easy one here. Mets news and updates. Start us off here, Zach.
Yeah, so we got some new news. Obviously, with the All Star break, we got the draft that happened, and the Mets had some nice picks. I mean, I'll breeze over it real quick. So I'm not no one's really, at least us people like us, just basic fans, aren't going to be too informed about these college kids. But their first two picks, Carson Benyai and Jonathan Santucci, both good picks. Stearns and company, they said that they were looking for someone, a position player with loud tools, which is Carson Benyai. He's actually a ex-teammate of our third round pick from last year, Nolan McLean. And he was also a two-way player in college. And opposite of McLean, he's someone that is more is better with the bat and is more advanced with the bat, and is probably going to transition to a full-time position player as opposed to a pitcher like Nolan McLean did. And then Jonathan Santucci was someone that could have been a first-round pick at one point earlier this season. Some injuries and stuff kind of stunk his value a bit, but he's a good lefty, good fastball and slider combo, and some of that could be really effective. And both these guys being college players is big because the Mets, they have a lot of talent in the farm, but a lot of it is younger and ways away, and they've been kind of drafting that more recent. So to get some talent at the upper parts of the farm is pretty good. And there were some other good draft picks. I think it was the third or the fourth round. They got someone out of NC State. Big guy, a lot of raw power. And he's only a sophomore, though, so it's probably going to be an overslot guy. But, time will tell once these guys get signed, and then, we start seeing a little bit more about them going forward. Other than that, we did have two other things of note. Right before the break, Senga pitched his third start in Syracuse, and he was 4 2/3. He got up to 64 pitches, if I'm not mistaken. So he's getting there. They're moving him along pretty quickly, and I've seen some buzz on Twitter of the potential, the possibility that he could be ready as soon as this Marlins series here coming up. And I mean, I think at first the suspected timeline would be that he'd be ready Yankees or Braves series at last week of July, but there's word that they might want him to go a little bit earlier and have an easier opponent in his first start back instead of going against a Yankees or a Braves. And then, other than that, they did have a signing.
That's awesome.
No, you go ahead. Yeah, that'd be great for the Mets. I mean,
I was just gonna say like that. That would be great. Yeah.
You're not expecting much out of him. You're expecting, another 70, 80 pitches, just trying to get himself fully lengthened out. And you're not going to him there to win you a game or anything. It's more or less just to get one adjusted to MLB batters and the balls, and two, just kind of get him up to speed, get him up to game speed here in the MLB.
100%. And it's like you said, it's I mean, you want to win that game, but
yeah, 100%.
What you want to see, you're not concerned with innings or anything like that. You want to see that he's got his legs under him. He feels himself. He looks like himself. He's throwing like himself. He's confident, right? There was confidence behind those pitches and pitch selection and all of that. That's what you want to see. And I agree. I think it's great if they start him out against the Marlins. And listen, you never count out anyone. You never look down at an opponent, underestimate an opponent. But there's no doubt about it. There's a lot more pressure going into a Yankee series than there would be,
100%.
or a Brave series than there would be a Marlins series. And, even if you're kind of treating it like a rehab assignment for him to a degree,
Yeah.
where you're like, hey, even if they want to say 65 pitches, we know
Yeah.
if that just gets him through 3 innings, fine. We
Yeah.
see him come out strong, and then a guy like Hauser or Buto comes in
Yeah.
and, pitches another 2-3 innings and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. And if Kodai starts, because let's be real, if they bring him out in August or late July for one of those Braves games or the Yankee series, then he's still only probably throwing 75 pitches. Like they're not telling him, all right, go out there and pitch as long. Like that's not going to happen. So
yeah, they've been jumping him up. Every start's been about 15 to 20 pitches they've been bringing him up in the previous starts.
But a guy's first MLB start, they're not going to let him throw 100 pitches. It's not going to happen. Even if he's at the point where he can, they're not going to do that with him. So you might as well kind of get those butterflies out now against Miami than, a week or two from then in a much more pressure-packed series.
Yeah, and I think the thing too that when I was talking with Jack Ramsey on Twitter, he brought up the fact that it'd be better to get him another extra game under his belt against. You never mean to talk about a professional team like this, but lesser competition in the Marlins, to get him adjusted to the MLB ball, because the ball itself is different in the MLB versus AAA, and the game speed is going to be a little bit different. So just getting him that adjustment would be nice against a team like the Marlins. What's up, Yuki? How you doing?
Also, a heads up to the viewers right now. This sucks. Not letting us post anything to Twitter at the moment. We're only able to broadcast to YouTube. I guess because neither one of my accounts are. I don't have a blue check. It's not a premium account, so I guess that's what I have to do now, which kind of sucks. But we digress. We go on. We're focused here. That's my bad. We have anything else, news and updates?
Yeah, so actually there's one more thing. The Mets did make a signing. I think it was earlier today. They signed Alex Gordon, who was DFA'd by the Giants. He's a lefty reliever, and he's no one that is really going to get anyone super pumped up or excited for. But what this does is, one, it offers more depth, a guy that can be optioned, the guy that will be in AAA as a depth piece, but also someone as a potential replacement for Jake Diekman or Danny Young up here, guys that really aren't getting the job done. I mean, Danny Young is what he is, but Jake Diekman's someone to look at as that's not really getting the job done. And he offers a different skill set, whereas Jake Diekman's kind of overpowering. He's got his 2-pitch mix, fastball, slider, and he's going to go out there and try to dominate you. Alex Gordon is Alex Young rather, is more of a finesse guy. He's got a 4-pitch mix, and he's not going to go out there and beat you to death. He's going to go out there and it's going to get you into ground out, weak contact, hopefully, kind of deal. So,
the bullpen is probably maybe the biggest concern at the moment.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Yeah. All
right. Mac too.
Do we want to jump in here on? You want to start talking trade block here?
Let's just want to do the
else?
First half recap real quick.
First half recap. First half, as I kind of said to open the show, beginning of the season looked very bleak. Kind of hit a high point, went back down for about a month, and really, I guess, when did Grimace throw out the first pitch? June 7th or something?
Beginning 17th. Of June. Yeah, first, second week of June, somewhere.
So pretty much since that, and and the OMG and all that, all that stuff. The Mets have completely turned the season around.
Yeah.
We went from looking at this team, and listen, no matter what, the long-term idea of this team remains the same. Whatever happens this year happens, but we're definitely looking into the future, right? We see all these young kids coming up, and that's where you're kind of like it's in your peripherals, right? Like that's their focus. But right now, you can't help but looking what's in front of you. And I think, all the conversations we had, prior to Grimace throwing out the first pitch was like, hey, you know what? At least we got trade pieces, right? At least we got JD Martinez. We could trade him off.
Yeah.
At least we got Severino. We got Manaya. And that was really that was really where we were at. Like we were having discussions within the fan base about like, do we trade Diaz? Do we trade this guy? Do we trade that guy? Like, in terms of looking to the future. And now we've completely flipped the script. And instead of like, hey, where can we? It went from, all right, you know what? Hey, you know, if this continues, let's just kind of stay where we are. We don't have to trade anybody off, but you know, you don't have to buy. Just kind of ride this out, see where it goes. To now, you're at a point of like, you could see the Braves could see us in their rear view.
Yeah.
Right? We're like, what, 4 games away from the Braves? At the moment?
Give or take. I don't know the exact number, but yeah, right around there.
They got 53 wins. We're at 49.
I'll look it up real quick, but something.
I want to say we're 4 games. We're within 4 games of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, we're right there. We're right up their tail. So, we're right on their tail.
The Mets are at a point now where you kind of have to go for it. I mean, you don't sell your soul to get there, but you've got to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick on anything you said. You kind of nailed it on the head there. I mean, the first half of the season, the best way to describe it, I got is peaks and valleys. You know, we had the beginning of the year, the first 5-6 games was brutal, and then we went on a tear, and we ended up, you know, what was it, like 5-6 games over 500 sometime. Yeah, at the end of April, and then Francisco Alvarez got hurt, and it just kind of went downhill from there. And the Mets just kind of fell apart in May, but then, you know, Grimace threw out that first pitch. Honestly, it happened when Lindor moved to the leadoff spot and he had that team meeting, and things have been on an upward trajectory since. And like Matt said, it's there's a light at the end of the tunnel now. You know, the Mets can see the promised land, and that is, you know, a potential postseason berth and, you know, World Series run. And like you said, Matt, we don't sell the farm. We don't give up everything just for this 1 year. There's so much promise with this farm system, but we do have to. If the Mets are serious about making an actual postseason run, and Stearns that's serious about this team and believes in this team, he's going to have to give up some pieces, and it's going to be pieces that people aren't going to be happy about. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if one of Brett Beatty or Angel Acuna are going. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these pitchers is going up here in the majors. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, one of our, you know, higher pitching prospects, Mike Vasil, Hamill, maybe Tyler Stewart are going. Guys of that stature, you know. So it's going to be an interesting deadline. I believe in Stearns, and I think he's smart enough to pick and choose who's going to get rid of, but trade away. But there are going to be people that you might be hoping to see that aren't going to be on this team coming August 1st.
What I don't like is people that bring up like the reason not to do this as like, you know, oh, remember 21 when we traded for Javi Baez, and, you know, like, yeah, we gave up Pete Crow Armstrong. Like, all right, well,
that was what's his name, Brody Van Wagner, right?
No, it was not Brody. That was Sandy Alderson. But like, the point of that is that
was
not all trades are created equal. Like, first of all, second of all, we have like revisionist history with that, because Javi Baez hit 300, put like, what was it, like 10 balls over the wall, put like 30 RBIs on the board. Like, Javi Baez was a producer for this team. The rest of the team was not, but Javi Baez was a producer, right?
It didn't work out that year, but then
it didn't work out, but it wasn't because of the trade.
No, but then also look at Pete Armstrong, PCA. What's he doing in Chicago? Nothing right now. I mean, you look back at the Edwin
They're
Diaz
talking about him on the trade block right now in Chicago. I'm listening to a lot of Barstool Chicago, and they're talking about like either finding a way to replace him or trading him off and cutting bait already, which is kind of nuts because he was a prospect. But you know, I mean,
I think he was a top 10 at one point. I mean, but
I know the Mets had some worries with his shoulder after he got his shoulder surgery. That was like part of their worry, but that's neither here nor there.
With these guys, with these trades, you can look at it like a 2020 vision, but like look at the Edwin Diaz trade. You know, for a while that looked like it was going to go down in Mets history as one of the worst trades of all time. And you know what? Where's Jared Kelenic? Not on the Mariners anymore. Where's Justin Dunn? I couldn't tell you. Robinson Cano was awful, but
2015 was not really all that long ago. It's 9 years ago now, right? Like, the Mets made one major trade, and that completely changed the trajectory of the season. And I'm
It
not
ain't
and I'm
good all
not
the
and I'm
time.
not saying that the same thing's going to happen this year. But all I'm saying is that like that was a team that was like floundering at one point, kind of found themselves again after the break and figured it out.
Yeah.
Like who is to say this team is not on the right track?
Yeah.
You know, so like you can't keep looking back at history saying, well, that didn't work because for every one of those years, I could show you the 2021 Atlanta Braves that literally made a decision the week of the deadline, and they said our record this week is going to determine whether we go for it or not. And they went for it, and they won a World Series. And I'm not saying that this Mets team can or will win the World Series, but you can't keep citing other examples of things that didn't work because for every one of those, there's another example of one that did.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, too, like how many people in 2022 was it had the 88 win Phillies going to the World Series? Like that was a wild card team. No one really predicted that, but they did it. And
Pretty
like
sure the last 3 years we've had a wild card teams.
how did exactly? You had the Rangers last year, the Rangers and
Rangers
the
and
Diamondbacks.
the Diamondbacks.
Right.
The Phillies the year before, and who was in
21 was Braves. I don't remember, but the
regardless.
point of it all is that, especially in baseball. I mean, we see it in football, right? The Giants won 2 Super Bowls this way, but like in baseball, if a team, at times, it just takes a team to get hot in the middle of September. If they could ride that out for the next month, they could be hoisting a trophy over there, regardless of how many regular season games they won.
100%. And look, at this point, we have to believe in what Stearns is doing and what he's shown us so far. And another thing too is I think this 10 games, the Marlins, Yankees, and Braves series is going to be pivotal to the Mets season. If they go out and they shit the bed, we're not going to be trading for prospects. We're going to be trading people away. It's as simple as that. If we go out there at 500 bulb, maybe you're probably going to, I don't know. You may get a little bit of both. You may get a little buying. You may get a little bit of selling.
I think it depends how you get to that 500. But
I think if they go out and they beat the Marlins, they beat the Yankees, they split or even beat the Braves, I mean, you can't do anything but buy.
But you have to buy, yeah.
You have to, because not only you already swept the Yankees once. If you go out and prove it again, especially in the Bronx, you're standing toe to toe with your big brother, with one of the best teams in the league. The Braves, one of the best teams in the league. Yeah, the Marlins or whatever. But
this is the discussion I have with a lot of prospect huggers and a lot of just fans in general, and they'll say, but like really, how far is this team gonna, and it's not just like in relation to the Mets. Like they'll talk about it with every team. They'll always say, well, how far is this team really gonna go? How much more and this and that. And it's like
100%.
sometimes it's not really about that. It's about the guys in the locker room too. Like as fans, we could look back and we could say one thing or the other, but we're not in that clubhouse every day. No. And I remember how broken Brandon Nimmo was last year when they had to sell. Yeah. And he was under the impression like, what the fuck? I just signed an extension here. I thought we're going for it. And he's made it very known. He's been in Stearns' office. From what I've heard, he's walked up to Cohen's office and sat down with Cohen about this. Yeah. And he is adamant about, if we are in a position to be competitive at the deadline, we need to go out and get pieces, and you've got to make that happen. And, if you just look at Stearns' track record since he's gotten here, he's shown us all the right things. I'm not saying he's picture perfect. 100%. He's made some mistakes, but the guys that he's brought in, JD Martinez, stud. I'm blanking here. Pitching, Manaea, Severino. Right? Like all of these guys are guys that Stearns brought in. And some of the guys that Stearns brought in that didn't really work, he was able to cut bait with pretty quick. Not cut bait, but like, for example, Hauser. Hauser was a guy that was supposed to be in the rotation. Showed us very early he can't do that. They threw his ass in the bullpen, and now that's worked. It's like so. There seems to be, as we've said, no loyalty to the roster, and there's not too much pride or ego in that room, and that's important.
No, Stearns has shown that he's willing to do whatever it takes, and if that means falling on your own sword, so to speak, you do it.
Yuki,
but with that being said,
I brought up Hauser, and I said that didn't work, and now he's in the bullpen, and that's worked. So sorry, Bess. Go ahead.
No, with all that being said, let's actually get into some deadline talk. Let's talk about what this team needs and who are some people that we're looking at them to get. Aaron just asked us, what do you guys want bullpen wise? Obviously, we know, like he said, that's our Mets. That's the Mets' Achilles heel. It's probably our biggest area of concern, I would say. I don't even think there's a close second, but for me, that's getting 2, maybe 3 relievers here. I mean, they are in desperate need of relief help. I think guys like Diekman and Ottavino have got to go. And if they are going back to a 6-man rotation, you got to suspect Danny Young's going to be down in Triple A. He's going to be sent down once again. And I think there's an argument to be made that Hauser should go. I know you like the long relief help, but this team's problem is late inning relief, is high leverage relief. Pitchers in high leverage situation, and getting rid of someone like Hauser, who has proven he's been doing great at giving you length out of the pen, but in high leverage situations, he has not been good.
Well, I think if you're willing to commit to Jose Butto being that long man, then you don't need to keep both.
But Nunez can also give you length. So
right.
I think even if one of the people they target is someone that can give you length, so be it. But as long as they can pitch in high leverage situations, show that they can throw, can shove late in games when the game's on the line. That's what they need. And with that being said, let's get into some guys that would.
Well, I was going to say, I think a catalyst, and I guess we could talk more about it when we talk about the starting pitching options, but I think what's really going to start really the dominoes here is, and I guess I'm biased because I've got some Detroit friends, but keep your eyes on the Detroit Tigers. And I say that because Tigers are in an odd position right now where they're like just under 500, but they're coming off, they're like 15 out of their last 17 or something like that. They're coming off a great stretch, just beat the Dodgers 2 out of 3. And they've got Tyreek Skubal, who is probably the front runner to win the AL Cy Young. I mean, the guy's coming out 6-7 innings, giving up 1 run. He's looking phenomenal. I mean, it's unbelievable numbers. The tape is unbelievable. So the fact of the matter is, I think if the Tigers, and apparently there is already a deal in place, or there is a deal put together from both the Dodgers and the Baltimore Orioles, I think that will be the first move of the deadline. And I think that will set off the dominoes, because that'll tell you, right, are the Tigers buying or selling? Well, if they're getting rid of Skubal, they're selling. Yeah. So now some more of those guys are, and I don't know who from their bullpen is worth going after, but my point is that is going to, the way we talked about Shohei Ohtani and Yamamoto setting the market for positions this offseason, I think the Detroit Tigers are going to be setting the market, if they decide to sell, with the rest of the trade deadline. And I wouldn't be surprised if this year's trade deadline starts a little earlier than in years past.
Yeah, no, and we've seen it already. A few pieces have been traded. I think I forget who from the Nationals. It was a right-handed reliever. I can't remember his name. But then obviously the Mets made that trade for what's his name, Maton, back in the end of June. But like I said, the Mets need a few options out of the bullpen. They need some help. They need someone definitely on the left-hand side, and someone on the right. I think more so you need someone on the left-hand side to replace Diekman, to replace Raley, who we lost earlier this season, to replace Diekman, who's been pretty damn bad as of late. And there's a few guys that I get on the left side that I think that the Mets should be targeting. Guys like Tanner Scott, Andrew Chafin, and Tanner Banks. So Andrew Chafin, I feel like if you listen to me and Matt talk before, he's in Detroit. If you listen to Matt talk specifically, me too. Andrew Chafin is someone that Matt's wanted for the past 2-3 years. He's a lefty. He's having a bit of a down year. His strikeout numbers are down. His walk numbers are up. ERA is a bit inflated, but he's still a solid lefty who has shown that he can still pitch in those high leverage situations. I'm not sure if he has anything left on his deal after this year. I think it might have been the last year.
Signing 1-year deals, yeah.
I thought it was a 2-year deal last year, but regardless, I don't think it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but it will still cost you something, because it's not like he's a nobody or someone that's maybe someone that a team's targeting that they think they could fix one thing and he can elevate his game to, step his game up to the next level. but he is someone that the Mets could use to be that lefty arm that they've sorely needed since Brooke Raley went down in April. Tanner Scott's Tanner Scott's the big one from Miami. He's probably going to be the biggest left-handed arm on the market out of the bullpen. He might even be the biggest reliever out of the bullpen. And that is someone that is going to be sought after highly, and I think the Mets should look at, but there's got to be a limit to where you go in terms of price, because I think you can get options that are better bang for your buck, so to speak, out of the pen.
Yuki's asking about Bellinger. We will get into everyday players.
We'll get into that of the outfielders.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little preview. I do not think so, but that's
I don't think so either.
Aaron just said, is Bobby Parnell available? That's funny. I don't know how long he's been out of the league. He's been out of the league a long time. Oh, man, Bobby Parnell. But Tanner Scott, he's going to be the bell of the ball, at least as far as left-handed pitchers go out of the pen.
What we got to remember, too, with this bullpen market, guys, is the same thing. What we want is the same thing a lot of other teams want, and one other team, and this is something, we're a Mets podcast, and I guess we do talk a little bit about our neighbors up in the north in the Bronx, but like let's be real here. The Yankees are in trouble. They're in danger of losing their entire season, and one of the things, I mean, they need a lot, right? But a lot of their needs are relatively similar to ours, specifically to the bullpen. You're talking high leverage innings. That's what they need. They still, to this day, don't really have a closer. Like Clay Holmes is in the closer role, but he's not really.
They need a high leverage guy.
They need a high leverage guy, right? And that's a team I could assure you, as deep as Steve's pockets are, and as much hope as we've got for this season, they literally right now, Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone's jobs are on the line. And I think the Yankees are going to stop at nothing. I mean, if they've got I don't know that they should, but that's probably what they're going to do, to try to put any Band-Aid they can, because right now there are a lot of leaks in the dam in the Bronx. And like I said, a lot of those positions, we're going to be talking everyday players. We're going to be talking some starter help. The Yankees need help all over the place, and I can assure you they are going to be able to – I don't know what they've got left in their prospect system, but they're going to do everything possible to bring in talent at the deadline. That they're probably going to be the most active team at the deadline, I believe.
Yeah.
And they have to.
Yeah. And you know what? That's where Stearns' ability to find talent that other people aren't looking for will come in key at this deadline. And I think there's someone that he should definitely be targeting in Tanner Banks. He's a Chicago White Sox and Chicago White Sox. And if you look at his stats, you're not going to be jumping for joy. They're not going to jump off the page of you.
Who is this?
But Tanner Banks. He's from Chicago. He's a left-handed reliever from Chicago. And he's someone that, again, like I said, his stats aren't jumping off the page at you, but he has a lot of great underlying stats, and he's going to be very different from what we got in Jake Diekman. Actually, very similar to Brooks Raley in the fact that he has a 5-pitch mix. He's going to mix around his pitches a lot, and he's someone that does not walk a lot. He only has 2 walks per 9 as opposed to Jake Diekman's 6 walks per 9, and that will be someone that I think the Mets should look at and might even definitely look at, just considering it's a bit under the radar. He has an option left. He's only making $600,000 a year, so he's probably not going to warrant a ton of money, not a ton of prospects, a ton of value from our side, and getting that option left is key. And Stearns loves his options, being able to play around with that bullpen and bring guys up and down just to fit the need of a certain day or the series. And you can switch it over to the right-handed side. There's a few guys, Kirby Yates and Carlos Estevez and Mason.
Could you narrow
Miller.
it down to like 3 guys here that you think maybe the Mets could go after?
I think there's 3 guys the Mets can go after. I'll give you 2 on the left-handed, or I'll give you 2 on the right and 1 on the left. I think Tanner Banks is going to be someone the Mets go after. I think Tanner Scott they will check in on. I don't know how far
to get an in-division trade, yeah.
Exactly, in-division trade, and how much he's going to be, how many other teams are going to be looking for his talents. So Tanner Banks is, I think, my front runner for the left-handed side. I think the Mets will also look at Carlos Estevez. I think he's going to be a person that a lot of other teams are going to look at, but not only is he going to be big in late innings, he's been awesome for the Angels this year, but we could also do a 2-for-1 with the Angels and get someone else, a position player that I think the Mets sorely need a right fielder to replace Starling Marte. And my last person is Colin Poach. Is an interesting one. Colin Poach is from the Tampa Bay Rays. He is actually also a lefty. I'm sorry, I thought it was a righty. But again, he's someone that his stats aren't going to jump off the page to you. But as of late, a lot like Maton, he's been amazing as of late. Amazing. So I think those are the three guys you could look at that the Mets you're gonna hear their names in conjunction with Mets trade talk. What's up? Fetty from Chicago. I like that, Aaron.
Have you been reading the comments here?
No, I didn't. I was so into what I was saying, but I see.
As we get into some starting pitching on the block, there are a lot of names out there, and first, let's get into some realistic ones, right? Because Yuki's got a thought, and he knows where my head's at.
No.
But in all seriousness, there are some names here on the starting pitching list here, and I could. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think it's something that the Mets are definitely going to go after. But if they do end up deciding to trade one of a Severino, Minaya, Quintana type, they could be someone that they target. They could target someone else that might have a little bit of control, and could be someone that can help them facilitate that 6-man rotation that they are talking about doing.
I think Garrett Crochet is like the hot name on this list right now. I mean, the
100%. There's no reason not to give the White Sox a call for him because he is phenomenal. He's 25 years old. He's having a hell of a year. He's right there with Tarek Skubal for AL Cy Young. And for the Mets not to give them a call to talk about him would be a mistake. But I actually like someone else from that team that we'll get into in a little bit. But I'll let you go.
Well, I was going to say you're probably going to bring up Fetty.
Oh yeah, that's what I think. I think the Mets should go after Eric Fetty.
He's on a team-friendly deal. It's not a crazy deal. $15 million.
2 years, $15 million.
2 years, $15 million, right?
The Mets actually called about him earlier this year.
And listen, if we know how cheap the White Sox ownership is. Steve comes in and he says, "Hey, don't worry, I'll cover the rest of this contract." Because that's the big thing. Like that's what really helps the Mets, right? It's not just the prospect pool. It's that you've got an owner that looks at his payroll and basically says this is a sunk cost. All right, so everybody that's currently on my team, I'm paying them out. It's a sunk cost. I budgeted for this money. I don't care about not that I don't care, but I budgeted for this money. I knew I was going to spend it, and that helps us. Like in a year like last year when we had to sell to bring in more young talent. Now this year, the reverse, right? This year you could call a team like Chicago and you could say, "Hey, you guys got to pay Fetty another whatever it is, 7.5 next year." And probably at this point in the year, maybe 3, because we're like maybe 3.5, whatever it is. You can come in and you could say, "Hey, I'll take whatever the maximum that you could pay this year." So that's probably like 2.8 or something.
Yeah.
And just tell the White Sox, I'll take this 2.8 right off your hands. Not every time. I mean, it's a relatively small amount. So like any team that's going for it is probably willing. You know what I mean? But like that does give the Mets the leg up. And that they don't have to send over as good of a prospect because I'm taking this money off your payroll this year and next.
Yeah.
Not everyone's willing. A lot of teams will say, "Yeah, we'll pay the 2.8 this year, but next year you're going to have to cover some of that 7.5." The Mets are, with Steve Cohen, they don't give a shit. 7.5 next year, and it's a guy that can contribute next year. Because that's the other thing that we have to think about with the starting pitching market here. The bullpen's volatile. Right? Like any good bullpen piece might not be a good bullpen piece next year, but starting pitching, for the most part, is relatively consistent within the league. Yeah. And so, we know that next year, no matter what happens this year, Minaya, Severino, and I mean, I guess McGill's out. Like you're not going to trust him to start.
Yeah.
And Quintana, right? Those are 4 guys that you were counting on this year to start games that are no longer a part of the team next year. So whoever you're going after, it would behoove you to go after someone that has a deal in place for next year as well.
Yeah, I love Fetty, and I think that was a bad example, honestly, to talk about guys that you could use like as you're relieving the White Sox of taking their contract, but because he's been amazing for them this year. And I think he's going to be someone that's going to garner a lot of interest from other teams, and he's going to be someone that's probably going to cost a pretty penny.
I have 2 guys here. If I could talk about my 2 guys, one's realistic and one just isn't.
Yeah.
but I'm going to say it anyway. For me, my most realistic option, and I don't know what Chris Bassett's making, but
Yeah.
Yuki, I agree with you. Chris Bassett's my number one, and for this reason.
You sound like 20 million a year, 18 million, somewhere around that range.
I
But yeah,
don't
you can
know.
go.
I don't
I'll
even
look it
know.
up. You keep talking.
He's having Blue Jays disappointing. Yeah, he's at about a 3.24 right now. Chris Bassett came here, was an asset here. He, I guess, kind of fell apart a little in September, but on that Mets rotation, who didn't? DeGrom did, Scherzer did, Bassett did. The whole rotation fell apart. Minus DeGrom in that one playoff game that we won.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole rotation fell
I
apart.
was there
So
for that.
to throw all of that on Chris Bassett, I'm not going to do. Chris Bassett came here. He pitched his ass off. He loved New York. He loved ownership. He loved the fans.
Yeah.
And he wanted to stay. I mean, I was really disappointed when the Mets let him go to the Blue Jays for, in my opinion, a fraction of what he was worth. I thought he was worth more than what he got there. So I was upset about that to begin with.
Yeah.
So if you're telling me there's an opportunity for us to bring Bassett back in,
Yeah.
I'm all for that. And if gun to my head of all of the guys we've spoken about, I'd want Chris Bassett.
Yeah, and with Chris Bassett,
you go.
I'll just real quick. I mean, you know what they say. You know, it's very cheesy, but the best ability is availability. And he was here for every single start. Every fifth day, he was out there throwing the damn ball.
And he was working with the younger guys.
Yeah, and it's something the Mets have had problems with. Guys not able to throw the ball every fifth day. And if he can come in here and be a consistent starter, someone that can, go out there, pitch some quality starts, give you some quality innings, keep you in games, I think you'll take that 10 times out of 10 for a third, fourth guy in the rotation. And it looks like the Blue Jays are selling off. So there's already been talks of Vlad Jr. going somewhere. You know, he's being shopped around. Other guys are being shopped around. So very, very, very possibly that Chris Bassett is going to, especially since he's under contract next year. Fairly decent contract too. Not super value, not a great value, but also not completely overvalued. So he's definitely going to get himself they're definitely going to get a pretty penny for him.
The unrealistic guy that I want the Mets to go after,
yeah,
Yuki just brought him up, Trevor Bauer. For me,
I don't want any part of it.
Listen, it would cost you nothing. It'd be a PR disaster for about a week. And then if they're winning, no one's going to care anymore. It's like when the Eagles signed Mike Vick. PR disaster, and then they started winning, and people don't remember. People don't care. At the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. Trevor Bauer can absolutely do that for us, and you could get him for pennies. But I think that's unrealistic. I don't think he's pitching in the MLB this year.
No, I think it's not only is it unrealistic. I think even if it was to happen, to bank on that to be a piece for you in the second half could be a disaster. I mean, it could obviously it's going to be an incredibly short leash, but for someone that hasn't pitched against MLB talent in 3 years at this point, since 2021, we don't know how.
In
good
terms
stuff
of a
is anymore.
backup plan, if you can't get what you want at the deadline and you don't want to
And you need
offload good pieces,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you're telling me it's like go after, let's say, Eric Fetty, but you've got to give up some keep, like an Acuna, for example, or take a flyer on Trevor Bauer for $400,000. Absolutely, and the money that you were going to put into Eric Fetty, you pay a PR firm to take care of the media disaster. I mean, that's what corporations do. That's what sports teams do. And 100%. When you want to win, sometimes you got to do things that not everybody totally loves, but it's about winning.
Look, and at the end of the day, I don't think the Mets are targeting starting pitching unless they do have a good deal or a good trade on the table for one of these guys that are here. It's not a position of need necessarily. I think the only way they also target starting pitching too, I think this could be interesting, if the plan is to shut Scott down soon after this trade deadline. I think we got to keep in mind, I know you disagree with this, but this is someone that in his career has thrown a max of 83 innings in his professional career. He's about to hit that, and it's only halfway through the year.
He also has not looked good as of late, so it really wouldn't shock me.
He hasn't looked as sharp, and I think that comes back to the fact that he's probably starting to get to his end in terms of how much he can throw. This is someone that's about to blow past his innings total in his career, his high mark, and it's just halfway through the season, just past halfway through the season. So for someone like this, you can't expect too much more out of him. Maybe 5, 6, 7 more starts. I know you disagree with that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's someone that's been trained. He came up as a reliever. They switched him to a starter. He needs time to
I get
build
that.
up his arm to throw that much.
I've come around a little to what you said, and that's why it does lead me back to Chris Bassett. Like, if the Mets are going to make a move, I really see that as being the move because they know that he could pitch here. They know he's pitched with he's been coached by Jeremy Hefner. I mean, he hasn't been coached under Mendoza, but he's been coached under Jeremy Hefner. Same thing we talked about with Fetty. The Mets have no problem taking on contracts, especially if it's someone that's going to contribute.
Well, I don't think it's them taking on a contract. It's them getting a good player. I think it's them getting a good player on an amazing contract.
On a contract,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
On an amazing contract, $7.5 million. It's amazing for what you're getting. And that being said, that's my guy. I think if they're to go after anyone, it should be Erick Fetty because to get someone on $7.5 million for next year, not really have to worry about getting a 3-4 guy in your rotation this next off season, and you have someone there already on a very, very, very team friendly contract would be amazing for the Mets. It would be amazing, especially with then the ability to go after and target guys like Corbin Burns, Juan Soto, etc. These guys that are going to be requiring massive contracts. We'll get to that at the end of the season. Let's get into position players.
Well, I was going to say Stevie Mack. I got to give Stevie some love.
Bring back
Bassett and Trevor Williams. I'm not opposed to that.
We already got our Trevor Williams. And
Jose we kind of
we got and did Daniel Nunez. Nunez can go length too. He can go 2 plus. So I think we got our long guys. We need to focus on high leverage relievers and everyday players, specifically right field. Starling Marte, we have gotten zero work out.
The first move that they've got to do. Forget Starling Marte, right? He's on the IL right now. He's invisible, right? And that's fine. There is a guy that is not invisible, and he is a liability.
We wish he was.
And that's DJ Stewart, and I love DJ Stewart. Like he seems like a great guy.
No.
I have no personal issue with him, but he's a liability out there.
No, 100%.
He's not effective in the field. He's not effective at the plate. He's not even good at getting walks anymore. I mean, literally the same complaints we had with Vogelback, we have with DJ Stewart. So if this team wants to go anywhere, they need to really sit down. And I would say before you do it, you need to sit down with Lindor and Nimmo. And you've got to be honest with them. And you got to say, listen, I know. Because from everything we've heard, DJ Stewart is a major part of this clubhouse. They love him. He's been a part of like the turnaround and just bringing up everyone's spirits. And those Disney stories are cute and they're great in June and July. And that's nice. But just like we talked about Trevor Bauer, we're talking about winning. We're talking about winning series and getting to the playoffs and making a run. And you can't do that when you've got a liability playing once every couple of days. A liability on both sides of the field.
Yeah. Someone that's really not doing anything for you. He's not pushing the needle. He's not even doing well in what you would hope in a platoon role. He's not hitting righties better than he's hitting lefties. He's just not hitting. Yeah. We need to get someone.
He's not getting on base. I would even say he's not hitting. He's not getting on base.
He's doing nothing for you. And I think the Mets, not only without Starling Marte, with guys like Ben Gamble here and DJ Stewart here, they need to get these guys off the team and they need to replace them with better talent. And I think it starts with getting a better platoon options in right field, because I think we got to expect that the Mets are going to go for a platoon in right field until Starling Marte's back, or even if he's not back. And you know what? That can work. It can work. And I think there's some guys out there that you can get that can make it work, like Jesse Winker, like Kevin Pillar, like Mark Hanna, like Michael Conforto. Guys that we know, guys that have been here before. Three of those guys have been here before. And Kevin Pillar is someone that you can get in a combo deal with Carlos Estevez from the Angels. So if they can go out and get 2 of these guys here, that would be great to replace those 2 guys.
I'm a lot more inclined to bring in a Kevin Pillar before I am to bring in Conforto, just because I know Conforto brings you the power, but and maybe it's just because the last I've seen, but it's not like he's ripping the cover off the ball in San Francisco. He's really not.
Nobody's hitting righties better than he is lefties. That's the thing. I thought again. I'm looking at strictly platoon guy that can hit righties, guy that can hit lefties, and Kevin Pillar is going to be your lefty master because Tyrone Taylor really hasn't done it here. And then you got to get someone that's going to match righties, and I think it could be Conforto. I look more towards Jesse Winker.
In
but I
Tyrone
think
Taylor's
Conforto's not.
defense, he has not gotten consistent playing time. He's been a guy that
He has since Marte's been out there.
Yeah, but he's been producing. Like this guy comes up in a I mean, Jose Iglesias. You talk about a guy coming up in a clutch situation. That is Jose Iglesias. But I mean, for the most part, like Tyrone Taylor, to me, I looked at as like a platoon guy / defensive sub late in the game. That's how I looked at him when he got here, and he has exceeded those expectations. I just worry with Conforto. He's a high strikeout guy. Like at least like with Pilar. And I don't have the numbers in front of me. I know Pilar is a tremendous fielder, right? Like Pilar is absolutely a guy that can.
He's lost a step, but he can play.
He could play right field. He could absolutely play right field for the Mets right now. I mean, and for that matter, probably so could Conforto. He's done it before. People always shit on Conforto as a fielder. I thought he was great. Like he was the best center fielder, but he was a great right fielder.
Yeah, he was very good at right field. So I think at the end of the day, the Mets need to replace both DJ Stewart and Ben Gamel. However you replace them, you replace them. And I think Jesse Winker is the better option actually to replace, say, DJ Stewart specifically, because Tyrone Taylor's actually been he's been an anomaly this year. He came in to hit lefties and he's hitting righties. What's the OPS? It's a 512 OPS against lefties, but against righties, he has a 750 OPS. He's hitting righties much better than he is lefties. And this could be something where you platoon Tyrone Taylor and Kevin Pillar. And you also bring in, say, a Jesse Winker, someone who can play right field, say Tyrone Taylor starts to not hit anyone or someone goes down to injury. But also, he's someone that has played for first base. Could be an option at first base if you need to replace Pete. You got a lefty bat there that can do that. And I think the Mets, they need flexibility and guys that play their numbers well and putting guys that where they can get into a position where they can put guys in the best position to succeed. And they haven't done that so far with guys like DJ Stewart, with Tyrone Taylor, even Lindor earlier in the season in Nimmo. They weren't in their best spots in the lineup. So just getting guys here that can fit specific roles, and then the Mets can help them succeed, and they can in turn help the Mets win.
Another kind of oddball, and we, it's the same thing we brought up with Tanner Scott. It would be tough because in division, but you wrote him down here in your notes, and I agree. Jazz Chisholm's out there potentially, and I know he really hasn't produced.
He's having an alright year. I think it's like a 780 OPS. I haven't looked at the numbers too recently. He's like 15 home runs.
The potential is through the roof with Jazz Chisholm. It's just
a matter of contract for a couple of years.
That's the thing I don't get. I guess I have to go over the cap because I see in 2024 arbitration signed. So it was Arb. So
I think he's got Arb too, and I think is there an Arb 3?
He's a free agent in 2027. So he's got
two more Arb years.
What do you think the cost for him looks like? Because there's a world of potential, but he's never really hit it, and it does seem like there is some personality issues there.
I think it's going to be high. You're going to be looking at probably both Brett Beatty and Acuna gone. You're going to be looking at if you're looking
that
at the Mets,
I don't find worth it.
Well, that's just a starting point. I mean, Brett Beatty hasn't proved it here. Acuna hasn't proved anything, and then you got to go from there. You're probably going to be looking at maybe you get one or two.
David Peterson.
I don't even know if they would want that. Maybe you can give up a David Peterson, but then I think you got to look at it probably. I don't have names to give you, but you're probably going to be giving up one or more of Mike Vasil, Blake Tidwell, Dom Hamill. I'm thinking maybe even and throw Tyler Stewart in there, probably one or two of those four guys, and then you may be adding another bat that's lower in your top 30, maybe outside your top 30. And I think maybe if the Mets were to do this, they'd probably try to package together Tanner Scott and Jazz and probably, give it be like a 6-for-2 kind of deal, 6 prospects for 2 guys. And I think that's what it's going to start at, because this is someone that even if you say this is potential right now, this is someone that's batting set, has a 780 OPS, batting 250 plus. It can hit for power, can play good defense. Someone that's going to be valuable. And he's under contract for years, and he's young. So to get that is tough, because this is someone that definitely has growth to be had.
The guy was on MLB The Show like a year ago.
Yeah, he was on the cover 2 years ago. Right. So this is someone that has shown flashes of what he can be, and that's going to be the selling point. And if I was the Marlins, I'm not taking anything less than they're going to set a price point, and they shouldn't budge. because I think teams
Because you could do the same thing next year.
You can do the same thing next year. And you could probably do the same thing the year after. I mean, and if he goes out and he starts to develop and grow past some of his issues with the Marlins, his value just increases. Or maybe the Marlins get better and he can be a piece for the Marlins to build upon in future years to come. So the Marlins are in the driver's seat with Jazz. Yeah. So this is someone that I find to be extremely out of the picture. Very kind of wishful thinking, but you never know. You never know with Stearns. I mean, it could be your second baseman option for years to come. It could be an center fielder option for years to come. So who knows? But it would. I think that it's interesting you brought him up because I think the Mets might be looking at second base. I think the next 10, 12 games after the break, leading up to the deadline, will be Jose Iglesias's tryouts. If he is the second baseman of the Mets for the second half of the season, or at least going to get the majority of the time over Jeff McNeil, because I think I don't think Jeff McNeil is going anywhere unless the Mets drop him. I don't think they are going to drop him, and I think if Jose Iglesias continues to hit how he is, and he has never hit like this in his career, he will be the second baseman for the Mets in the future, and I think things need to go right. I think he needs to prove it over these next 10 to 12 games.
They'll have him on a relatively short leash, I feel.
Iglesias?
Yeah, I think if you see a bad 2 weeks from him, it really wouldn't shock me if they just if they I hate to say kick him to the curb, but if the rest of the team is producing and they're in a playoff spot, it's the same thing we talked about with DJ Stewart. As good as these guys are for the locker room, and if that's what you're going to do, you can only kind of have one of those guys that you're calling locker room guys, and they don't really produce much, right? You can't have DJ Stewart and Starling Marte and Jose Iglesias, and all those guys aren't really producing. You can't do that because eventually, as great as Alvarez and Lindor and Nimmo have looked, they're going to slow down a little. There's going to be a point in the season where they stop hitting a little bit. And other people need to pick them up. And that's where you look at a Jose Iglesias. That's where you look at a Tyrone Taylor. So, the Mets have had some really nice stories out of some everyday players that exceeded expectations. But I think you've got to be real with yourself. For example, JD Martinez could have a bad 2 weeks. He's still going to be in the lineup.
He has had a bad 2 weeks.
No, he has. But my point is,
before the deadline,
he could come out of this, deadline and not look. He can come out of this break and not look great, and he's still going to be in the lineup the next day because you've seen him do it this year. You've seen him do it his whole career, and you're going to bank. And he is a guy that produces in the playoffs. He's been there multiple times. He knows what he's doing, right? So he's a guy you're going to give some leeway to. You're not going to give that leeway to Jose Iglesias. As much as I love him and OMG and everything that's gone on, you got to be realistic.
No, 100%. And I think, like I said, that the next few games are going to be a tryout for him. If the Mets continue to win and they prove to Stearns that they should that he should buy at the deadline, I think if Iglesias is not coming out of this deadline super hot, I think you could easily see fall back to a bench role and Neil gone, or maybe even back to the lineups.
But I do think that they're going to prioritize right field over anything else.
I think right fielder is going to be a position of in terms of position players is going to be their priority. And I think maybe looking at a second baseman, I don't know who's out there that's available. I haven't heard much. I mean, Jazz Chisholm's the talk of the town in terms of who's being available, but I think the Mets are definitely going to be looking at right fielder. And
Yuki brought him up before. Luis Robert from
Luis Robert from the
Chicago.
White Sox. He's their center fielder. Yeah. But I don't know how he's been this year. I know he kind of stumbled a bit last year, if I'm not mistaken. And then Stevie Mack just brought up two guys, Brent Rooker and De La Cruz. I forget his first name. Brian De La Cruz, if I'm not mistaken, from the Marlins. Yeah, Brian De La Cruz. Both those guys would be awesome. They're both awesome bats. I mean, I think you don't really look at their defense. I mean, I think you're looking to get a better bat in the lineup at that position. But both of these guys are have several years of control, and I don't think they're going to be the Marlins or the A's are going to be, rushing to get rid of them. I think it's going to cost a bit to get them, especially guys with that, with that much talent behind the plate. So, and then you bring up Yuki just brought up Mike Trout. I think that's pretty funny. Trading for Mike Trout. God knows where he's at right now. He's
Yeah, that's
probably
one of
sitting on
those
the couch
Yuki
somewhere.
comments you kind of just
Blow
let
past.
happen and you keep going.
But no, then Jeff McNeil for Gleyber Torres. I don't think they're going to be doing that, but I think you very well could see Jeff McNeil off this team somehow, some way after this. For this,
I would be shocked.
I don't think
it.
But I think it's a possibility. I don't think you can rule it out. I think
no, you can't rule it out. But the odds of it happening, and Jeff does provide so much versatility in the field, where
left field, right field, second
you're going to be more
base.
inclined. Like
I'm
there are
pretty
other
sure he's
guys
their
to
emergency
cut
catcher.
before. He is the emergency catcher. There are other guys you cut before you cut Jeff McNeil. As much as Jeff McNeil's been a disaster, and I agree, like there are a list of guys, DJ Stewart and Ben Gamel being one. Both guys you could send down anyway. But do we want to get into most important move?
Yeah, let's do it. Move into it.
Most important move the Mets need to make before July 30th. Now, this could be. Everybody in the comments, sound off. Let us know.
Yeah, before we get into it. You guys throw out your comments who we think need to make a move for, get rid of, whatever.
This could be a trade. This could be a release. This could be a sign. Whatever it is. It could be a position group. Whatever. Just whatever you think. This could be as specific or as vague as you'd like. So we'll start with you, Zach.
Start with me? I think I got two for you. I think we could all look at relief.
Okay, but who's your number one?
Who's my number one? My number one I really want to get is Carlos Estevez from the Angels, because I think that allows the Mets to do a two-for-one trade. It allows them to get Kevin Pillar, and a high leverage relief. Get two positions of need for this team, and I think it would be a slam dunk of a trade. I don't think it's going to be something that's going to cost them it's going to cost too much. It's going to be something you're going to have to give up a little bit of value to get Estevez, but Pillar, who I think he's definitely not under contract next year, but he's also someone that I think mentioned retiring after this year, so he's not going to be carrying too much value. And Estevez is also a free agent after this year, so his value is not going to be as high as they might think. That being said, I think from there, my number two biggest move is cleaning up the dead weight. It's a lot of bullpen. The Mets need a lot of help. You do a lot of heavy lifting in this bullpen. And the dead weight I think is Diekman, Ottavino, and Hauser. Yuki actually just brought it up. DFAing Diekman, Ottavino. I think those are the two that you look at from the jump. But then Hauser too. I mentioned this earlier. He is someone that, yes, he has been good in long relief. He's been good at giving you innings. But when you break it down, he's been in there in high leverage situations. He has been bad. He was bad in Pittsburgh. He was bad on the 4th of July. He let up the home run to Jesse Winker. He has not been good when the Mets need him. And the Mets' biggest problem is high leverage situations. That's been their biggest problem. You got guys like Budo who have shown that not only can they give you length, but they can give pitch in high leverage situations. Same with Nunez. So getting someone out of there that is a one-trick pony, and that one trick is length, when we already got two guys that can give that to you, he's got to go. Matt, what do you got?
I flip-flop with this. At first, I was kind of looking in the bullpen market because of my concern within the bullpen. Now, before I start this, are we going to potentially... Oh, is my thing dying? It is dying. Wait, let me plug this in.
Oh.
Are we potentially going to see Brooks Raley again this year?
Tommy John.
Oh, he got Tommy John.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I'll check it out real quick. But
I forgot what his injury was. I just...
Ingrid Andress sing the national anthem. Oh God. Yeah, it was a bad week for ears here in the USA. Yuki.
I would say the most important move, and I agree with you, cutting dead weight. Like the first thing you should have done yesterday was cut DJ Stewart. There's some guys in this bullpen you can cut, right?
I was talking about bullpen specifically, but yeah.
Right. But I believe the most important thing that this team can do at the deadline, in my opinion, is add a starter. And I'll tell you why. Quintana's had a nice couple of starts. We saw a bad start in that last game.
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, you're banking on a lot here, when it comes to the starting pitching, you're banking on Senga to come in with no setbacks and look great.
Mhm.
You're banking on Quintana to continue at age 36 to somehow like find his groove and keep pitching this way. You're banking on Manaya to keep pitching as well as he's pitched. You're banking on, hopefully getting something out of Scott here in the second half, even though he hasn't thrown, like you said, that many innings. You're banking on Luis Severino, who's been probably the most up and down pitcher we've seen in baseball for the past, 5 years?
Yeah.
You're banking on all of those guys at once producing and propelling us into the playoffs. And I just think it's too much. And I think if any one of those guys starts to fall off or doesn't have it, or, you know what I mean? Like if things do not go in the direction that, for all these players that we hope they go, that could derail all of this. And there have been teams that have made a playoff push or won a World Series without 5 great starters, and absolutely. But I think if the Mets really want to solidify a shot at the playoffs, and when they get there, a deep run in the playoffs, you need more than what you've got starting wise. And I agree, right field is a concern, but that's something that, like you said, I think you could kind of patch that. You could patch that with a Kevin Pillar. You could patch that with a Michael Conforto or whatever, and you could get a good deal.
I think Platoon's going to be the option in right field.
Right. And you could win games like that.
Yeah.
But where you can't win is when, a starter goes down because of a suspension, or, whatever, a guy goes on the 10-day IL, and then 2 other pitchers look like shit. That's where things could unravel quickly.
Yeah.
And we don't have the bullpen. And I don't think anybody's got the bullpen to really overcome that. So for me, it is imperative for this Mets team to do something in the starting pitching market. And I don't know who that'll be. Like I said, I mean, I would, gun to my head, give me Chris Bassett. And I think that that's a deal we could probably make. But whoever it is, and listen, if the Tigers are trading Skubal, then maybe Jack Flaherty is on that mark. I mean, he would have to. If they're going to trade Skubal, they'll definitely be willing to trade Jack Flaherty. I don't love him because he's been very, he's another guy that's been so up and down. Although he's riding a high right now for the Tigers, he's been very up and down. So I don't particularly love that. But you've got to do something. David Peterson cannot continue to come out and pitch every 5th, 6th day. Tyler McGill, you're not going back to him. And like I said, I mean, odds are, like we've watched enough baseball in our lives, odds are one of those 4 guys I mentioned before is not going to pan out. Manaya, Sevy, Quintana, Senga, one of those 4 is going to shit the bed at the end of the season. So you've got to find a way to bring in someone else to supplement this rotation. And it also allows you to go to a 6-man rotation like we talked about before.
Yeah, I think that could be a big move, and I think it's a move for the future too. And I think Stearns is definitely not someone who's very nearsighted. He is farsighted. He's going to look towards the future, and a guy like Bassett or Fetty could be a part of this rotation next year, and maybe even past them. So getting someone like that could be a good move. Could and would be a good move if it was for the right price. If they would need to get a little bit of value for a guy like Manaya, Sevy, or Quintana, but then also you got to hope that this next guy they bring in hits out. I think for me, it's definitely bullpen and right field before them, but I think making a move for a starting pitcher of that caliber, I prefer Fetty over Bassett, but of that caliber could be a good move, especially if they're going to get value from a guy like Sevy or whomever,
Yeah. I don't know that I see them trading away a starter. I know I thought that a couple weeks ago. I really don't see that now. But
there's someone I didn't mention, Tyler Anderson. He was another starter. Sorry, I had to take this hat off. It's itching my head. Is a lefty from the Angels. He could be another option, but he's also going to be up there, and he's going to be costing a decent bit of prospects. So someone of that stature is going to be, I think, out of the Mets range. Also, guy, what's it? How do you pronounce it? Garrett Crochet.
Crochet, I think.
Crochet.
That would be the French way of saying his name. So
Yeah, I think he's going to cost way too much, and also that's actually that's a move that's not inducive of a team that is going to win, is looking to win this year. He is someone that's probably going to be shut down soon. He's going to hit his innings limit soon. So going for him shows that you are more so looking towards the future than you are this year. So I think the Mets.
So a team that trades for Garrett Crochet, that's trying to win a World Series this year, is going to shut him down before October.
I don't think a team that's going to trying to win this year is going to trade for Garrett Crochet. That's what I'm trying to say. I think if he was to stay on the White Sox, he's going to be shut down soon. I think a team that's going to trade for him is a team like a Rangers or a
Astros,
maybe a Padres and Astros, teams that are kind of hovering around a playoff berth, but have kind of have had a disappointing season, but also have the talent to be there in future years.
Yeah,
that's where I would look for him to go. To be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot on. It's weird. It's a weird deadline. There's a lot of talent out there that's being talked about traded, but no concrete like top teams out there. It's a lot of just kind of up in the air so far, and we'll see as it develops because that trade deadline day can get a bit hectic. Phones ringing left and right, Twitter blowing up. So we'll see. Hopefully the Mets are right in the thick of it, buying and working towards a playoff push.
We're coming up on an hour 5 here. Do we got anything else for the audience?
Oh, geez, I think we bled it dry. I think we hit every point we could think of. I mean, the only thing left to talk about is this Marlins series coming up, but maybe we can get into that at some point later in the week. Yeah. And I think now is a good time to wrap it up. We hit a lot of points here and a lot to look forward to for this trade deadline. And as it gets closer, we'll definitely do another show like this, breaking down some other rumors and news that we hear out on Twitter and whatnot, and guys that may become available because the things can change. There's still 12 games. A lot of teams have 12, maybe 13 games before this deadline. Who the hell knows what happens? A lot of things can change. Teams that were sellers become teams that were sellers become buyers. Teams that are buyers become sellers. You know what I mean? Maybe a team that just comes out of the woodworks decides to buy and makes a magical run. Who knows? We still got some time, and there's still a lot of stuff to be proven, especially here in Flushing. The Mets are true contenders and buyers. I think they are, but time will tell.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you at some point later in the week, maybe this weekend, potentially this weekend.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right. Stay tuned on the socials, and I will definitely get that Twitter issue fixed.
Yeah.
So
thanks everyone for watching. Yuki, Stevie Mac, Aaron.